God. If you agree, say amen. Amen. It's a good day. Something's going to happen. I'm just letting you know I'm ready for it. Hey, just as you came in this morning, if you did not get one of these 21-day devotionals, please grab one on your way out. One per person, one per family, however you can do it. We are asking the church to unify around doing this every single day. Carve out time, just plan it into your schedule for the next 21 days, because 21 days creates a habit. And so if you create a 21-day habit of spending time with God every single day, it's going to be harder to break it than it will be to continue it. So, next 21 days, who says I'm in? I'm in. All right, I'll see it on your social media if you really are. Because you post burgers, so you'll post some Jesus. All right, so I want to share a few things. I said last week that I would share a couple highlights from 2018, and I'm excited to do it. This morning, I want to share a few things with the church. So we started September 9th of 2018. So we're 4 months old as a church. If it's your first time visiting, so thankful that you joined us this morning. But just in the first 4 months, we saw 18 people come to know Jesus as their Lord. That's a good number. That's a good number in 4 months. If we did that over the course of the year, we would have over 50 people that came to know Christ in our church. We were able to baptize 7 people in the first 4 months. That was exciting for us. That was incredible. That's over 1 a month, almost 2 a month. We were able to give almost $5,000 into missions, into our local community, to serve the people that are already doing great things for the Lord. We were able to do that. You did that, church. That's you. And 1 year ago today is when we were actually meeting in our living room. We were getting ready to have our very first meeting, and we didn't know who would come. We didn't know who God was going to gather. That night we were like, are we going to have 100 people show up? Or are we going to have 3 people show up? A year ago today is when we started meeting in our living room. Who knew that this is what God had planned for us? But incredible. 2018 was a phenomenal year, but I want to let you know some goals we have for 2019. The first thing, here is the announcement for the day. I'm super excited about this. We are a missional church. Our 3 things are hope, community, purpose, but we are going to Tijuana, Mexico on our first mission trip coming up in 2 months. Hey, that was not good. All right, we're a missional church. We're going to Tijuana, Mexico! And for the person that says, you're going, I'm not, Mexico's scary, here's what you could do. Well, they have to live there, so, I mean, you know what. But you could help support someone else to go. If you're like, hey, I'm not going, but I love the missional side of what you're doing, and I'll fund someone else's trip. We would love for that. We'll give some really specific announcements, but it's going to be under $200 a person, which is crazy. That includes everything. And so I want you to start preparing your heart for if God puts that on you, that you're going to make that. It's a Wednesday through a Saturday. We'll be back for Sunday church. We're actually going with our sending church in Scottsdale, Oasis Community Church. We're partnering together on a mission trip. So we really want to make this important. We are locally committed, but we're also globally committed. Here's some other goals. We're believing that by Easter, we're going to be in 2 services. Okay? Now, if our room looks like this, like a few more times, that's going to actually be mandatory, not just a dream. But here's the challenge to this, right? And every church goes through this growth pain. With more services comes more volunteers. So as you are here today, we're super excited that you're here, but also if we are going to grow to the point of another service, that means another whole round of childcare, which our kids volunteers are doing such a phenomenal job next door. Our tech team in the back, could you just clap for them? They are the hidden gems of the church, our worship team. So it'd be a big commitment, but we're dreaming for 2 services by Easter. We're believing that we're going to increase our giving, and we're going to give away 15% of our church income. We're going to give that away into the community to support what God's doing. We are believing that ACU, which just moved in. Any ACU students in the house? Come on. Hey, if you were a Lope fan, I couldn't even stop you right now. Lope's up! ACU, you're the Firebirds? Firestorm, okay? The Firestorm, they're coming right next door to us. If you didn't know, right next door to us. So we're believing that this is going to be a heaven-sent partnership. And we're going to have a phenomenal influence in that college. We're actually dreaming and thinking about planting and starting our college ministry in the fall. Bridge Youth starts at the end of this month. Parents, the 26th, it is a Saturday night. We're having our first youth event. We're going to just do a bonfire and a movie. But if you're a young person, the 26th, Saturday night at 6 p.m., show up to the church. It's going to be awesome. Go to our website for more info. Next one, bridge groups. These are our goals. Sorry, I'm listing a lot, but I want you to know we're a church that dreams big, and we're not going to stop. Bridge groups, we're believing that 50% of our church is going to get connected and committed into a bridge group this month, all right? 50%, look around. That's one of two. So if you're married, one of y'all need to make that commitment and start off. Last one, we're believing, and this is probably a soft goal, I might raise it right now, but we were believing for 50 saved, 50 baptized in 2019. I think I might need to raise that. So we're believing that our church is going to hit these milestones, not so we can check a box, but we can say, man, we lived a year of overflow at the Bridge Church. And so if you weren't with us last year, that is our theme for the year. Last week was a setup to what today is going to be. Each week, we're going to break down a different area that we're believing God for overflow. And today, we're talking about relationships. Now today, everyone in this room, this is one thing that we all have in common. If we talk about different subjects, it's very particular, but relationships consume our lives. In fact, God created us for relationships. It's in the heartbeat of God. And so today we want to talk about how do we have healthy, thriving, overflowing relationships in our life. So there's 4 levels of relationship, and I want to let you know where we're going today. First one is friends. Your friends are the people that you choose to live life with. These are the people that you share memories with, you share history with, you probably can go back a ways. Your friends are the people that stand out amongst the crowd. They're the people that you're familiar with. You go into a room and you connect eyes and you kind of know what you're thinking. These are your friends, easy to know. I want you to do something real quick because I want you to categorize these people so I know who I'm talking to this morning. Just close your eyes for 10 seconds. Think of your 3 best friends. Think of your 3 best friends. Whoever pops in your head, 3 best friends. You only needed 5 seconds, okay, because they popped in your head real quick. 3 best friends, okay? So you know who your friends are. Next group of relationships are your family. Now, these are the people that you didn't choose to have a relationship with in your life, but God chose for you. So either you thank Him or you maybe have some vivid conversations with God on why. And so if you look through your relationships in your family, these are important relationships that are a part of our everyday life, or at least our yearly life. You can't choose who's in your family, but you get to choose the depth of the relationship. That's your choice. And so if I were to be honest with you, I don't know my birth mother, and I don't have a relationship with her. Even though Facebook has made that possible, I've chosen to not have that depth of relationship. And some people are, why? There's a crazy past to our story, and I've forgiven and I love her, but I just don't choose deep relationship with her. And that's a choice I had to make as someone that loves God and is going after the things of God. It was just better for me to love her from a distance. And I want to tell you today, you get to choose the depth of your relationship in your family and your friends. The next group is your acquaintances. These are the people that you, there's a reason that you know each other. So you either work with them, you go to the gym, you go to the same church. So you maybe have a bunch of acquaintances in this room, but they're people that are familiar to you, but you don't necessarily have anything shared together. And lastly, romantic. Bow, chicka, bow, wow. Right? That's for next week. So if you want to know how to have a solid, thriving, romantic relationship, young people, ACU, GCU, you better be here next week. Don't you skip out. We're going to talk about how to have incredible, phenomenal, thriving relationships and dating, engagement, and marriage. We're talking through that next week, and so we're believing it's going to be a powerful week. But we were made to be in relationship with each other. Do me a favor, look to the person next to you and say, we were made for each other. Husbands, hopefully you looked at your wife. Are you going to get knocked out on the way home? Here we go. Number 1, if we're talking about overflow in our relationships, number 1, you will experience overflow in your relationships if you embrace that your friends may come from the oddest places. If you embrace that your friends may come from the oddest places. Here's what we do as human beings. We naturally look for people that are just like us, okay? And that's great, right? Because you can laugh at the same jokes, you can quote the same movies, you can talk about the same sports teams, you can sing to the same songs. There's all these commonalities between us. And what happens many times in relationships is we look for mini-me's. We look for clones, people that are just like us. And we try to surround ourselves around people that are just like us, people that look like us, people that come from the same neighborhood, people that are in our same profession, people that make the same amount of money as we do. We do this maybe subconsciously more than we even realize. But I'm believing that as we go through today and we talk about a very interesting relationship in the Bible, you're going to find out that there's some people around you that I think God has specifically placed in your life, but they don't look anything like you. They don't even talk like you. They're a Star Wars guy and you're a football guy, and you're like, we cannot coexist, right? And so I want to tell you that there are people uniquely designed and knitted for you, God placed in your life, but you're going to have to look in some odd places. I think we miss some incredible relationships because we're not looking for the right people. And so in the Bible, there's this friendship that we see in the Old Testament. One character is very, very familiar: David, Goliath David, King David, and Jonathan. Now, again, this familiar, if you've been in the church, this may be a familiar relationship that you know, but I want you to see how odd this relationship was. This relationship made no sense. It didn't make sense then, it didn't make sense now, and here's why. Because Jonathan's dad was a king. He was the first king of Israel, Saul. And so if you know anything about, and you could, like, say for example, none of us are going to be friends with Prince Henry. You know why? Because we don't live like he lives. He lives in a castle. He's got his whole elite group of friends. And so there's no way that we could associate with a prince, right? And so that's Jonathan. Jonathan is a prince. He is in line to take the kingship after his father dies. And so Jonathan has no business dealing with someone like David. But David and Jonathan have this incredible, unique bond that I think we can learn from today. It didn't make sense in human terms. In fact, they should oppose each other because David was anointed by Samuel the prophet to be the king, right? But his dad was king. And Jonathan was the next one to take the throne in the terms of lineage and how you would do that. So they should have been enemies, not friends, if anything. David was a shepherd. Jonathan was a prince. But I want you to see what made them great friends. It wasn't because they came from the same neighborhood. It's not because they spoke the same or they both loved Beyonce, right? That would have been weird because they're both dudes. Should have thought that through more. Not that they loved Maroon 5 or whoever. Not that they were both Vikings fans, right? Come on. Not because they shopped at H&M and then they wore the same clothes, but because they shared the same values. That's what made them incredibly unique friends that were bonded together. They shared the same values, and their values were this: God, the people of Israel, and taking their nation to the place that God had called them. Those were the unique values that they shared together. So someone needs to hear this today. When you're looking for a friend, and that's what today's about: relationships, friends, people that will come alongside you in your worst, your best, that they'll support you and love you, and you'll go on a journey towards Jesus together. That's what we're talking about today. So you need to look for equal values, not identical personalities. Look for equal values. Kurt, I wasn't even going to talk about you. Kurt, I want to say this. No, I'm just going to say it. Kurt, I would never naturally seek you out. And here's why. No. I want to tell you why. First, you're studlier than me. I want guys that are not. No, I'm just kidding. The way that you dress is kind of has a country vibe to it, right? And I like to think of myself as a city slicker, right? So he got cowboy boots on right now. Okay, I don't wear cowboy boots. I just don't even own them. So right there, aesthetically, I'd be like, I don't know if we'd be friends. If you listen to Kurt talk for more than 5 minutes, there will be at least 26 Star Wars references. Let me just let the church know I've never seen Star Wars. I know. Hey, but if we share the same values, we can be friends, right? Don't cast me out of your life yet. I'm trying to make a point right now. I've never seen Star Wars. I've never seen Star Trek. I don't do sci-fi. I've never seen The Simpsons, right? So hold on. I know. I'm shocking some of you. You want to throw me away from your life. This is the point. So Kurt, just listening to you speak, I would normally say, good guy, loves Jesus, but I don't know the depth of our friendship. What are we going to talk about? But me and Kurt, I think, are good friends. We're going out on Tuesday for coffee, and we're going to talk and dream together. You know why? Because we share the same values. He loves Jesus. He wants God to do something great for his life. He loves the local church. And because of those things, I want to surround myself with people like him. And so who cares about all the personality differences? We value the same thing. Jackie, you missed all that. That's Jackie, his wife. Oh, she probably would have cussed me during it. You stop talking about my man. But what do you value? That's what you need to start looking for when you look for friendships. Don't find people that'll beat their head to the same song. That's so fleeting. It doesn't matter. It has no significance in your life. You see, bridge groups are designed to connect people with similar values. That's why we're doing it. And we're doing 5 different groups. In each one of them, there will be people that specifically connect to that group. And that's the point, is that we would connect our lives outside of a Sunday morning gathering, and we would start to live life with people like God designed us to. So there's 2 values that I see in the life of Jonathan and David, and I want to point it out because I think they're so good for us. And there's like 10 more, but in the confines of a sermon, I can't. So true friendships, value number 1, true friendships are selfless. True friends are selfless. You need to be this friend, and you need to look for these friends. This is the both-way call on our lives, to be selfless. Here's our text. 1 Samuel chapter 18, we're going to read a few verses. I want you to know the context. Immediately before what we're about to read is when David took down Goliath, which is a familiar story for many. 1 Samuel 17, that's the David and Goliath story. So 1 Samuel 18, this has just happened, and now David is having a conversation with the king, and his son Jonathan is standing around. I want you to see what happens. Starting in verse 1, we'll skip verse 2 and go to 3 and 4. 1 Samuel 18, verse 1. As soon as he had finished speaking to Saul, speaking about David, just a teenage shepherd boy, the soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. Then Jonathan made a covenant. This is the same word used for husband and wife in relationship. It's the deepest form of relational commitment. Then Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as his own soul. And Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was on him and gave it to David, and his armor, and even his sword, and his bow, and his belt. And so as we go through this, we see that there was a covenant made. Jonathan knit himself together with David, and because they shared equal values, there was something significant about them. But I want you to see something that I feel like I've missed over and over and over, because I never went and studied the significance of each one of those items that Jonathan gave to David. He gave him 5 things, but I want to highlight 4 of them. Okay? So Jonathan, when he said, David, I give you my robe, when he said, take my robe, here's really what Jonathan was saying. Jonathan said, take my throne. He was in line to be king. When a prince would take off the thing that signifies to the entire world that he was royalty, that his image was found in the kingship of his father, that he was next in line to rule over Israel, when he would take off his robe and give it to a peasant shepherd boy, do you know how this would never happen? You would never steep to that low as someone of royalty, but he takes off the thing that declares he's royalty and he gives it to a little teenage boy. Here's what he was doing. He was saying that this royal robe doesn't define me and my identity. And in fact, I'm being called to give this to you. His robe signified him as a prince. He gave it away. So someone in this room, if we're going to be a selfless kind of friend, there may be something that we've claimed as our identity, and don't you come and rob this from me. I'm the pretty girl in the group. We can't have another pretty girl in our group, right? I've seen Mean Girls. I know. And I don't know the context that it matters for your life, but we see that he took off his identity and said, it's not about me, it's about what God's doing through you. This was a powerful move that you would rarely ever see outside of a movie. So he takes off his robe, which represented his throne. The next thing he did is he took off his armor.
and he gave it to David. This signified his accomplishments and his honor. The thing that we find out in Scripture is that Jonathan was a decorated and notorious member of the military. He was a phenomenal fighter for Israel. And as they did, like a Purple Heart. This would be symbolic of giving away your Purple Heart. One of the most prestigious things you could ever get as a military veteran. And so he gives this away. Why? It was signifying that these are my accomplishments. These are the things that the world cares about, and I'm giving it away to you. This was his honor. This is how people knew him. When he walked into a room, there were certain insignias that would have been a part of his arms and a part of his chest that would represent, and if you see a military guy in the airport and you see patches all over, you know he's done some incredible things for our country. And he's fought in a way that most people could never. This was Jonathan. And so when Jonathan took off his armor, he was taking off his protection, but he was also taking off the things that defined him, the labels that were a part of how significant he was. And he said, David, I'll give this to you. He was selfless. The next thing he did is he took his sword and he gave his sword. His sword represented his security, but it represented so much more to Jonathan. Here's why. Because you had to read the text to find these things out. And the whole nation of Israel at that time, they were under massive rule from the Philistines, who Goliath was a Philistine, right? And so they were under Philistine law and Philistine order. And so they had put a mandate on all the blacksmiths in Israel that they weren't allowed to make any more swords. And they took all the swords from all the people in and around the Israelites. And so all the swords had vanished except for two in all of Israel. You know who had those two swords? Saul and Jonathan. There were two swords left. And he gave it away to David. This was the thing that would protect him and his security. And he took it and he said, I'm going to be this kind of friend. I'm not going to be a selfish friend. I'm going to be a selfless friend. What I have is yours. What I can do to promote and to protect you, I'll give it to you. This is a selfless move. And the last thing he did is he took his bow. His bow was his most prized possession. I never knew that. And everyone's got something, right? It's your car. I don't know what it is for you. It's just, man, that's my thing. But Jonathan took the very thing that was his most prized possession and he just gave it away. See, overflowing relationships are always looking for ways to give. Now, these are material things, but it could be so much more. Your time is probably one of the most valuable things you have on this planet. So when you give your time away, that costs something. But I'll just tell you, true friends, they give it away. And I get it, you got a family and you got to find balance. And I'm not telling you, you just got to be running ragged and giving it away to everyone. But when God prompts you and when God enables you, it's a sacrifice for you to do it. But give freely to the people that God has placed around you. Maybe it's your robe. Maybe it's your armor. Maybe it's your sword. Maybe it's your bow. I don't know what God's going to call you to give selflessly. But that is number one. That is the value I see in the relationship. The second value I see is loyalty. Loyalty is what makes relationships go from good to great. Because it's easy to find someone that you connect with, but as soon as some conflict comes into your life, you're going to find out real quick about somebody. Now this is what I believe so strongly in healthy conflict. I believe any relationship, my wife and I, we love each other deeply. We have conflict. Any friend that I really call a friend, we have had conflict. It is inevitable. It's a part of life. It's how you choose to deal with that conflict, how you choose to let God minister through that conflict. It is really the depth of your relationship. And so we see that loyalty was deeply important to Jonathan specifically. Here's why. Saul had brought David into his home. Okay? David was an incredible harp player. Saul was being afflicted by demons and evil spirits. And so Saul saw something in David. Whenever David's around playing his little harp, man, things are good. Like, I don't feel as agitated spiritually. And so King Saul invites David into his home. This is a win-win. Saul's happy because the evil spirits aren't there when David's playing. Jonathan's happy because his BFF is living with him. This is great. This is good for David because he's leaving the fields tending sheep into a palace with servants. This is a good deal. But what happens when jealousy shows up? See, this is the defining moment of friendships. Because it's easy when things are good, but when conflict arises, and jealousy specifically, jealousy is that hidden little beast that you don't know the name for why friendships kind of fall apart and why relationships are severed, but jealousy has a lot to do with it. And I want you to see this. 1 Samuel chapter 18, right? They just got through with Goliath, verse 6. As they were coming home, it's David, Jonathan, David, Jonathan, Saul, and all the military men. As they were coming home, when David returned from striking down the Philistine, the women came out of all the cities of Israel. Lots of women came up, ready, singing and dancing to meet King Saul, with tambourines, with songs of joy, and with musical instruments. And the women sang to one another as they celebrated. Saul has struck down his thousands, and David his 10,000s. Right? Whoa. Hold up. And Saul was very angry, and this saying displeased him. Wait. Did you just give... Hold on. Let's read. They have ascribed to David 10,000s, and to me they have ascribed thousands. And what more can he have but the kingdom? Whoa, this sounds a little bit like someone's getting jealous. Someone's getting really upset that someone got credit that was due to him, and now he's getting all the credit. This little teenage boy is stealing my attention right now. The women all came out to dance and sing, and they got that beat going, but all of a sudden, they changed that verse up a little bit. It sounded good at first, but now, it doesn't sound very good. Verse 10, verse 9. And Saul eyed David from that day on. That was the root. The bitterness started right there. You can always go back in your relationships when they were severed. You could always find that moment where the seed was planted, where you let something take hold of you, right? The women just came out to sing a song. And Saul got credit in that song. But he couldn't handle the fact that someone else got more credit. And so right there a seed was planted, and from that day on, he eyed David. Verse 10, the next day a harmful spirit from God rushed upon Saul. And he raved within his house while David was playing the lyre, as he did day by day, right? He's just playing his harp, doing his thing. Saul had his spear in his hand. Just picture this visually. Little teenage boy just took down the Philistines. Your nation is free. He's just rocking out, having a good old time. What you wanted him to do, and Saul is madhousing around his house. Saul had a spear in his hand, verse 11, and Saul hurled the spear, for he thought, I will pin David to the wall. But David evaded him twice. Saul was afraid of David because the Lord was with him, but had departed from Saul. So Saul removed him from his presence and made him a commander of 1,000. Get out of my house. After he tried to kill him. This is the root of where relationships are severed. Jealousy has torn apart many relationships in this room, but you may have never known it was jealousy. You maybe have put a different word on it, but there was a moment where either a seed was planted or you acted and you never went back from it. You see, King Saul went from rejoicing to plotting because of a song lyric. You see, overflowing relationships, they sing along. They sing with. When the credit's not for them, when it lifts someone else up that they love, someone that they care about, when it brings them up and gives them attention and gives them accolades and gives them credits, real friends, true friends, unselfish friends, overflowing friendships, they sit there and they're the loudest one clapping. They're the loudest one singing. I don't know if you've been this friend, but God is calling us to be this friend and to find these friends. You don't need more people that are going to drag you down. You don't need more people that are going to tell you how messed up. Now, again, accountability is true. But if you just got some negative people in your life that are always bringing you to a low place, where is the closest door? That one. That one's pretty close. You need friends in your life that are going to lift you up and celebrate you. And you need to be that friend. We got so many people in our life that we have allowed that are not overflowing with anything that we value. But they're familiar and because they've been there. And so going on through this theme of loyalty, we see next in 1 Samuel chapter 19, Jonathan defies his father, who is the king, out of his loyalty for David. Here's the verse, verse 1, 1 Samuel 19. And Saul spoke to Jonathan, his son, and to all his servants that they should kill David. Things have advanced quickly. But Jonathan, Saul's son, delighted much in David. Remember, he was knitted to him. He made a covenant with him. And Jonathan told David, Saul, my father seeks to kill you. Therefore, be on your guard in the morning. Stay in a secret place and hide yourself. And I will go out and stand beside my father in the field where you are. And I will speak to my father about you. And if I learn anything, I'll tell you. And Jonathan spoke well of David to Saul, his father. See, if David dies, this is actually a pretty good thing for Jonathan, because he's still in line to be king. So as long as David is there, he has been anointed by God to be king. So in earthly terms, it's in Jonathan's best interest that he lets his dad just go through with this plot to kill David, because it benefits him the most. But Jonathan never looks at this about what's best for him. He always looks at it as what's best for David, because true overflowing relationships are selfless. His loyalty outweighed his desires. See, we need friends like this, and we need to be this friend. Deep friendships are so much more than shared hobbies. Deep friendships are so much more than shared hobbies. I'm going to skip to the third one. I'm going to circle back around to conflict resolution. You can go read Matthew 18 for yourself. This is a core value of our church, that we learn how to deal with conflict. I'm just going to make this another week all in itself, so you can prepare for that in the future. So we'll skip number 2 altogether. Last one, you will experience overflow in your relationships if you develop your inner circle. Develop your inner circle. I'm going to end with this. So Jesus had his 12 disciples. But there were 3 that he had a different form of relationship with than the 12. Peter, James, and John. They were the ones that went on special trips with Jesus. They were the ones that had those really, really deep conversations that no one else was privy to. It was the one that Jesus would reveal himself to on the Mount Transfiguration. It was a unique relationship that no one else had access to. And in the same way that Jesus had his 3, I believe that every single one of us, we need to have an inner circle. Every one of us, and you probably already have it. But where I'm going to challenge you today is who is in your inner circle. Because you get to choose your friends. You don't get to choose your family. You don't get to choose your acquaintances. But you get to choose your friends, and you definitely get to choose your inner circle. That's your choice. If you're not satisfied with the people that you've surrounded yourself with, my dad used to say this all the time: show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Yeah, Dad. Ended up being pretty true. See, if I were to look at your inner circle today, I could tell a lot about you. If you were to look at my inner circle, you could tell a lot about the things that I value by the 3 to 5 closest people that I let around me. The people that know me like no one else knows me. The people that I allow access to my schedule, access to my conversation, access to my struggle. Those people, where they're going spiritually, says a lot about where I am or where I'm going. And that's the truth. In your inner circle, it represents who you are today or who you will become. You need to think really carefully about who you let that close to you. And it's your choice. It's no one else's choice. And so I read this thing. There's 5 stages of relationship, and I want to read it to you. There's 5 stages of relationship. Number 1, they start off as cliche. Every relationship starts out as a cliche relationship. What this is how's the weather? Are you from Arizona originally? Right? Just cliche, small talk, just being kind. This is where every relationship starts, cliche. The next one, it moves from a cliche to a fact-based relationship. And you start talking about your job, the facts of your life. Talk about your job, maybe you talk about your family, but it's facts, just who you are. If you find enough commonality and you share enough things, then you move from cliche to facts, and then you move into opinion. And the opinion phase of relationships is where you start to share your worldviews, the things that are important to you, the things that make you who you are, the things that you're deeply passionate about, and the things that you hate. It all starts to come out in the opinion phase of relationships. If you're satisfied with each other's opinions, you moved into the emotional phase of relationship. You have cliche, then facts, then opinion, then emotion. Emotion is not just who you are, but it's what you believe. It's the depth of what makes you who you are. It's what you think. It's your good, your bad, your ugly. This is the fourth stage. This is where most good friendships, they're in this emotional stage. You're invested into each other. But then you have a fifth stage, and this is reserved for your inner circle. It's called the transparent stage. It's that phase of relationship where they know you and you know them, but this has to be an equal relationship. And the only people that get to that transparent relational side of you need to be people that are equally yoked in the same values as you. Who cares if they like something different in personality, if they are equally yoked and they want Jesus? Can I just say this? Your inner circle, they need to be loving Jesus if you want to love Jesus. You got to. But sometimes, man, we surround ourselves by these people because we have deep relationship with them and we've known them for years. And you should love them and they should be friends, but they shouldn't be your inner circle. If they don't love God and you want to love God more, it's going to be so difficult to get there when your inner circle doesn't represent who you are today or where you want to go. You get to pick your inner circle, and they need to be 3 to 5 people. Can't really have more than 5 in an inner circle. About 3 is the number to shoot for. And there are differences between your inner circle and your friend groups. Your inner circle is either your kiss of death or it's your breath of life. Show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Would you bow your heads and close your eyes with me this morning? Father, I pray over our church today. God, I pray over every unique relationship that's represented in this room. God, I don't know the conflict that people are dealing with relationally today. We were able to barely touch on that. God, as we continue in this Overflow series, pray that you'd give me wisdom on how to teach things that are important to our church. But today, God, I pray that this concept of having selfless and loyal relationships, God, I pray that we would be this friend and we would look for these friends. I pray that we wouldn't settle into marginal relationships. God, I pray that you'd help us to deeply love people, but that doesn't mean we need to have a depth of relationship with everyone. God, I pray that you would give us people in our life that would care for us, would love us, would support us unconditionally. God, I pray that you would help us deal with conflict in a biblical way. I pray it wouldn't sever our relationships, but it would help us grow in relationship with the people that you've called us to. God, I pray over the people today that are here that they just surround themselves with people that are really not up to much good. They're going in the wrong direction spiritually, but we continue to give them parts of our soul. We're tying ourselves to people that don't want the same things as us, and then we wonder why we're not changing and why we're not moving in a direction closer to you. God, I pray today that you would give us the strength and the courage to honestly evaluate our friend groups and especially our inner circle. Are these people that represent who I want to be? If they're not, God, would you give us strength to love them, but from a little bit more of a distance? God, would you bring people into our lives that are Peters and James and John, people that would do anything, that would sacrifice anything? God, would you bring a Jonathan into our life? God, would you let us be a Jonathan to someone else? The world doesn't need any more fleeting friendships. We need deeply committed relationships if we're going to live our life for you. It takes a church to change a city. It takes a lot of churches, not just a couple individuals. God, would you unite us? Would you knit us together? God, I pray for this room. There's people in this room. God, you have placed people in chairs, maybe in different rows, and they don't even know each other's names, but you have deeply thought through their relationship, and you have called them to such a unique and intimate relationship, but they don't even know it right now because maybe they're too quick to get out of church every Sunday. They show up after it starts, and they leave as soon as it ends, and there's no time to actually converse with anyone. God, I pray that you would just use our lobbies. Use our outside while it's nice for people to start the conversation. And it's always going to start in a cliche form, God, but would you allow us to start somewhere? I pray over our bridge groups, God. I pray that people would make a commitment from now until May to get involved with people that value the same things as them. As we close today, if you're in this place and you say, I don't know Jesus as my Savior, you're talking about godly relationships and I don't even know God. We're going to have a few people up here at the front, and we're going to pray with you if you want us to pray. We'll pray for as long as we need to. If you're here today and you don't know Jesus, we're extending an invitation to a conversation. If you want to pray this morning, we'll have prayer partners up here at the front. If you're here today and you need to respond and make a declaration over your life, we're here to do that as well. As we close today, would you stand to your feet and worship and thank you, God, that you've created us for relationship.